Field prospect Caleb Durbin back in the deal. Cortez went 9-10 with a 3.77 ERA this past season. Durbin hit .287 with 10 home runs in AAA. The Yankees also sending $4.5 million in cash as part of the deal. Turning to the Packers, they were on the field for practice for the final time earlier today as they prep for Sunday night's trip to Seattle. Jair Alexander and Javon Bullard did not practice. Green Bay goes into the game 9-4. Seattle has won 4 straight. Kick on Sunday is at 7:20. As for the Badgers, they're going to host a large number of transfer portal targets this weekend. That includes San Diego State quarterback Danny O'Neal.
Actor portrayal.
When I first looked into life insurance, I worried about the hassle. Then I found Better Life. Their simplified issue whole life coverage plans mean no medical exam. I found a plan that fit my budget, and now my final expenses are covered. Plus, I get Better Life member benefits at no extra cost. That's definitely better.
Better Life Insurance, where better means belonging. Call 888-488-4136. Insurance issued by Better Life Insurance Company. Terms and conditions apply. Member benefits are subject to change. Contact a licensed agent for details.
Well, it's game day for the Wisconsin volleyball team. They will face Texas A&M in the Sweet 16 tonight. The winner will get Nebraska or Dayton. Meanwhile, Bucks get to be in Vegas tomorrow to face the Hawks in the semifinals of the NBA Cup, while Wisconsin can look to snap a 3-game losing streak as they take on Butler and Indy. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
A setback for Jair today?
No.
Was it the plan for him to not practice?
No.
Personal reason?
No.
Illness?
No.
Why wasn't he there?
Just based on what I saw over the last couple of days, didn't feel like he was ready to play.
So will he be out then this week?
Yeah. Well, there's certain requirements to get out there and go play, and like certain speeds and whatnot. And when you're not hitting them, it's you're not ready to play.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Matt LaFleur just a little bit ago. Now, Jair's not going to play, which isn't totally surprising. I know he practiced fully and without limitations and was off the injury report earlier this week. I was still skeptical, and so was Matt LaFleur. I played you LaFleur's comments, I think yesterday or Wednesday, can't remember. And one of the reporters, maybe it was Wilde or Huber, they're the higher volume beat reporters when it comes to volume of questions, saying, hey, Jair's off the injury report. That's got to be great, right? And Matt LaFleur basically said, yeah, that's nice. We'll get to Sunday and see how he feels. And I read that as, yeah, he's been off the injury report before, and it hasn't ended up mattering. So I'm not surprised at all. Jair didn't practice today. He's not going to be available this weekend. But I think big-time good news just about everywhere else. Bullard is still out, which isn't surprising. I still think the fact that Bullard's season isn't over is an awesome situation, given how it looked that Thursday night game a week and a day ago in Detroit. But Dobbs is out of the concussion protocol, which is like really relieving for him because it was getting to be a while. I'm worried about him and I'm worried about his head. It starts to get serious. Evan Williams has cleared concussion protocol. He'll be good to go. And Edgerrin Cooper is expected to play. Could suffer a setback, but even if he doesn't play on Sunday, still coming along really nicely. So this team is really healthy other than Jair, but that's nothing new. We're used to that. The Packers on some level are used to that as well. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I am feeling a massive show tonight. I can feel it. We have a ton to talk about, including the Brewers dealing Devin Williams, as you heard Zach mention in the update. So we can sink our teeth into that, and I love a reason to talk baseball, especially in December. I am all about this, so we'll start there. A ton of Packers things to get into. All of the coordinators spoke yesterday. Lots of injury news. Now we can start to talk about, okay, Dobbs is back. What does that mean? Evan Williams is back. What does that mean? So that'll be huge. Ellie French is going to join us at 5:35. She joined us. I can't remember if it was going into the Rams game or coming out of the Rams game. She was in Los Angeles, which is where she's from, and she was out there visiting family. And I asked her to come on. She's like, yeah, I'm taking some time off to be with my family, but I'll come on. And I felt a little bad. So she was back, what was that? Long before the bye, week 6, 7, 8. I can't remember when they were out in LA exactly, but she'll be back at 5:35. We're going to talk to her about maybe some of the ways that this team has changed since the last time we spoke with her, not just on the field, but how have they matured? How have they grown? Maybe whose voices have become more prevalent in that locker room as leaders. So we'll talk with her at 5:35. Curt Hogg, coming up here in about 10 minutes or so, the Journal Sentinel. We're going to get everything there is to know about the trade of Devin Williams, including the lowdown on the players that they got in return. They got Nestor Cortez, who I have mixed feelings about for very stupid reasons, and infielder Caleb Durbin. I'm no expert on minor league baseball or hitter profiles, those sorts of things, but I will do my best to give you the rundown if you haven't had a chance to, pull up an article and read what there is to know about mostly Durbin. We know who Nestor Cortez is. He's a starting pitcher. He's been around. But Caleb Durbin, it's like, well, what's this guy's story? So I'll do my best to pass that information along to you. So we are all up to speed on everything that's taking place today. Huge show tonight. Oh, also, big time announcement coming up at 4:55. I've been telling you, we're working on live shows the week of Christmas. A little bit of a Wisco Sports Show Home for the Holidays live tour Christmas week. And we're going to be in Eau Claire Thursday and Friday. We just added a show. So I will tell you more about where we're going to be at Friday after a live show, Princeton Valley on Thursday as well. So another live show, another opportunity to come out and get together and drink some Leinenkugels, have a fish fry. Princeton Valley does fish fry on Thursday, so we're going to have a live show on Friday night. I'm going to go back-to-back. Second night of a back-to-back, I'm getting another fish fry. So another announcement on a live show for our listeners up in the Chippewa Valley, WAYY. We'll do that right before the top of the hour at 5 o'clock. Let's talk about this Devin Williams trade. I was psyched to see it happen. With all due to Devin, very good player for the Brewers for a while, not just for a year or two, like a pillar of Brewers baseball in this David Stearns turned Matt Arnold era. Excellent player, very productive player. However, the last memory, the last moment, the last thing we think of with Devin Williams right now is giving up, and Zach made sure to include this in the sports update. Zach, I didn't miss this. That jumped out to my ears. Zach said, of course, Devin Williams coming off giving up 4 runs to the Mets in a pivotal Game 3 and in a save situation in the wild card series back in October. Yeah, so that's the last flavor that I have in my mouth. And if we zoom out even further and we're like, Devin Williams is a Brewer, what comes to mind? Well, that home run to Pete Alonso comes to mind. And the punching of a wall in 2021 comes to mind too. A pretty significant moment. So the Devin Williams era was not without its flops and its bad moments and its frustrations, but be fair to Devin, like that's going to be the case for every closer. You are the guy out there with the 3 most important outs of the game when the opposing hitters are really digging deep and trying to stay alive. Be fair to Devin, okay, I remember his bad moments. Now, set the wall punch to the side. I mean, that was kind of his thing. I'm not going to make that a closer thing. That was kind of Devin's thing, but all closers are going to have blown saves. I was ready for the Brewers to move on as soon as possible. As soon as possible, I was ready because I didn't want this to linger. I didn't want this to get close to spring training, and I certainly didn't want this to go into the regular season. And I've seen lots of Brewers fans on Twitter who've been like, they should wait until the deadline. They should wait. They'll get more at the deadline. Maybe, or maybe not. And then also, what if the Brewers are good this year, which I would imagine they have every intention of being good. They've told us this time and time again, our goal is to be in the mix every year. Well, if you're in the mix in July, Devin Williams probably proves to be a big part of that. So do I want to be trading him away? I don't want to be doing that in the middle of the year. I'm anti-selling when you're contending. I'm anti-trading away a good player when we are in the mix and when we're trying to contend. So I wanted this to happen in the offseason, and I wanted it to happen rather soon. I'm glad. I'm thrilled. I was psyched it happened today. To be honest, the compensation was almost secondary to me. I just needed this to happen. I needed to turn the page as a Brewers fan. So Nestor Cortez, that's a nice piece. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Matt Arnold will get to have some fun in arbitration. I'm sure he'll enjoy that. And then he'll probably walk for nothing, but Devin Williams would have walked for nothing as well. The Brewers probably have a deeper stable of relievers and can find a way to close games. Nestor Cortez proves to be a solid pin in the starting rotation, whether it's the 2 or the 3 starter. You can slide him in where Frankie Montas was. You can slide him in. He'll make a lot of starts and get a lot of outs and be a pivotal piece in navigating a 162-game regular season. The Brewers will also probably be like, hey, Nestor, your sinker's pretty good. You ever think about throwing that more? And he'll be like, oh my God, I never thought. And all of a sudden he'll be like, great. And that pitch will unlock some things for him. That would be my bet at this moment in time. But 30-year-old, 1 more year of team control. Matt Arnold will get to have some fun in arbitration. He'll get something to occupy his mind here before spring training starts going into January and February. Caleb Durbin is the other player. I knew nothing about this guy. He's 5'6". His exit velocity averages 83 miles per hour. His launch angle is not great, if you care about such things, and his barrel percentage stinks. So I guess we have another Sal Frelick on our hands, except this one plays the infield, although I still think there's a non-zero chance that Sal Frelick is playing third base for the Brewers this year, whatever. I think this is more about finding a versatile infield piece to fill in. Like, I don't think they want Durbin to be their everyday second or third baseman. I think they want to find, don't give up on Oliver Dunn. I would tell you to keep an open mind there. But I think they want to find a third baseman to potentially move Joey Ortiz or find a shortstop. I like not Sal Frelick. I like Bryce Strang at second, leave him there. I think Durbin is potentially a player who could just kind of take the Monasterio spot. They play a little bit all over the place, right? Play the matchups, play the hot hand if you're into such a thing, right? If you don't want to go so much by the book. I'm a little underwhelmed at that player. I think he slots into all of a sudden he's like the 15th best Brewers prospect or something like that. Nothing to really blow your socks off, but I kind of understand why. It's like, okay, it gives us some insurance in the infield, probably an upgrade over our utility man, which is Andrew Monasterio. And I can understand that. I get the appeal to a player like that. I think Cortez is the real piece. And it makes sense. It's like, okay, we want a guy who can help us right away, major league ready. And we also want a player who's a little toolsy, who's a little bit of a prospect. We want a little bit of a lottery ticket as well. And I think that was the compensation that I kind of expected. I think we've talked about that on the show. A player that can help them right away, either on the cusp of the majors or a major league player, Nestor Cortez, and a player that's a little bit more of a lottery ticket or a player that's an unproven, unfinished prospect, Caleb Durbin. There you go. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back in a couple of minutes. I believe Curt Hogg is able to join us. He said he was fitting it in a couple of things. If Curt isn't able to join, that's fine. It's Friday. There's breaking news. He's very busy. He's a father. I'm not going to hold it against him, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to be able to join us next. If you have thoughts on what's going on with the Brewers, text him to me, 608-321-1670. Otherwise, I'll be able to start taking your calls at around 4:30, and we'll talk plenty of Packers as well. It's the Wisco Sports Show. Fins up. It's Friday.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Ellie French, Fox 11, going to join us to talk Packers at 5:30. At 4:55, another announcement on a location for a live show coming up in a few weeks. We're doing the Wisco Sports Show. We're going on the road. It's the Home for the Holidays tour. A couple live shows up in Eau Claire in the Chippewa Valley. We're going to add a live show on Friday. I will tell you about that. Just became official earlier today. Right now, we're reacting to the biggest news of the day, even though it's football season. Devin Williams is now a New York Yankee. Side note, I'm interested to see what he looks like without a beard. Maybe I'll use AI to try to come up with a picture and get an image in my head later tonight. Curt Hogg is here. Curt, you are busy. You were running around. Your story is up at the Journal Sentinel. It is excellent. It got me all the information that I needed. You were also on father duty. You're in a grocery store, correct?
You will never believe where I am. I am in the fish aisle of Meijer with a 2-year-old who's turning 3, and we promised her to get all her birthday foods today, but guess who didn't have time to go get said foods. So now we're here.
John Heyman can't hold a candle to you. John Heyman might have stayed up for like 72 straight hours, but he's not shopping with his daughter. Well, I appreciate it. Quickly, someone tweeted me before this break, and I forgot about it. Devin Williams' comments on the Brian Hudson situation, and I think between that and maybe his comments about Hader and the punching the wall, Brewers fans kind of had an idea of Devin, and we've talked about this. He was a really intense guy, but I don't think I've ever heard you complain or say he's a bad guy. Just an intense, interesting guy, right?
Yeah, and intense, and that went in, that applied to him as a competitor. It applies to him sometimes, like with the media, although we had a pretty good relationship overall. So, the Brewers, they didn't trade him because of any comments or, because of the 2021 incident after they clinched or because he blew Game 3. It was none of that. It was just, this is how they operate. But those are sort of the coloring factors of Devin Williams' time here, in addition to being like the best reliever in baseball.
Yeah, and you've spent enough time around him. I just wanted to have you speak to that a little bit, because I think Brewers fans might have an idea of the kind of guy he is, and I think he was maybe a little misunderstood. When the offseason started and you're able to put the Mets and everything behind us, and it's like, all right, we're on to 2025, what was the Brewers' MO? Like, what was their strategy going into this offseason as it pertains to Devin Williams, and what kind of deal they were looking for and when they were maybe trying to find it?
Yeah, I think there's a world in which the Brewers don't trade him, but that's not the world that we ended up being in this year, because like the Brewers don't have they're not operating with a lot of financial flexibility. And Devin Williams' contract is one of those areas in which they, could shed some salary. It's a position of strength in the bullpen. So I mean, obviously in a different world where the world where they don't consider trading him is a world where that's just not the world the Brewers existed. But the way the relief pitching market was as well, like there's a lot of relievers out there. So you need two to tango. And the Yankees were kind of one of the handful of teams that you felt would be a good fit in that regard. Because, some teams like the Red Sox, they sign Chapman. Some teams would just, rather than part with another piece, a couple other pieces, you could just go acquire pitching on the free agent market, although it's not to the level of Devin Williams. But yeah, add all those things together. Everyone knows this is how the Brewers operate now. It's more often than not that they trade a guy with 1 year left. I thought it was kind of funny to just like, they really touted the fact that they didn't trade Willie Adames.
Yeah.
But like that was the exception. That's not how you've always operated. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's the way that they go has been proven to be successful. But not a total surprise.
I think that was a good exception. If there was ever a player, I don't think you often want to let players play out their contract and get nothing for him, but I think Adames was a good exception with how the team was performing last year. The compensation reminds me of what they wanted for Burns. Give us a piece that can help us now, and maybe a piece that's I guess DL Hall was a little bit further along. He had pitched in the majors, but give us something for now and maybe something for in the future. Is that kind of how they approached what they wanted from the Yankees? Because that's kind of how I'm reading what they got.
Yeah, and that's sort of it is a little different from some of the past moves of this type where you Nestor Cortez only has 1 year of team control, which there's a little bit of a question, like, depending on how the rest of the offseason plays out, would they consider trading him? I'm not saying they would, but that is a little thought in the back of the head because he does have 1 year left. But ultimately, I think he's a part of the rotation on opening day. And that I know Caleb Durbin is like the quote unquote controllable piece. He's never been in the big leagues. You could have him for 6-7 years or whatnot. But to me, the headliner is Nestor Cortez.
Yeah.
You only have him for a year, sure. But you feel a lot better about the rotation when you put his name in there than when you're like looking at the back end. You're like, okay, Savali, Hall, Ashby, and you don't feel terrible about that. But also with Woodruff's injury too, it's like this makes one of the question marks of the team a little smaller of a question mark.
I like removing question marks, and last year taught us that you can never have too many starters.
No.
Yeah.
No. A little bit, yeah. Punctuation's good.
I like
a comma. Nestor Cortez is the comma of the starting rotation.
It really drives me nuts how he pitches. It's a pet peeve. It has nothing to do with actual baseball. It's just an old man thing of mine. I just hate I don't like it, but whatever. If he pitches well, I'm not going to get mad about it. What do we got to know about Caleb Durbin? And then I'll let you go. Explain what he is and how the Brewers maybe view him moving forward and how they'll use him.
Yeah, Caleb Durbin might be the most Milwaukee Brewer member of the Milwaukee Brewers. He's from Lake Forest. Good oasis there. That's down more in my neck of the woods than your neck of the woods. But he's small, 5'6", struck out or walked more than he struck out, I should say, in the minor leagues. So super contact-oriented profile. He can play all over, play some good defense. It's a higher floor player than necessarily a ceiling player, and but they're also the floor is determined by a little bit by how much power he has too, because you do need to hit to be able to be a big league regular. So there's gonna have to be just a little bit of damage in there probably to be a big league regular. But yeah, the defense and speed is obviously right up the Brewers' alley. I think everyone under 26, not named Jackson Churio, has the exact same profile in the organization. This is their type.
Is it infield Sal Frelick? Is that who he is? Is that an oversimplification?
Are we sure Sal Frelick's not an infielder?
Well, that's the other thing. I saw a lot of people saying
you can't do it now.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
I know.
But
a lot of people said Durbin is like the new Monasterio. He'll slot into that role at least at first. Does that make sense? Is that a good way to think about it for now?
Yeah, better defender, faster, and probably more contact. I think I would rather have Caleb Durbin getting 300 at bats.
Yeah.
Than Andre Monasterio. I feel like the Brewers' utility infield, those backup spots, was one of probably the biggest weakness on the roster last year. Luckily, not the most important spot, but a spot they have to shore up. And I think you'd feel a lot better if you acquire someone else that isn't Caleb Durbin to you pencil him in, a different guy in for 500 at bats, and see what you have with Durbin. But
sure,
we'll see.
Thank you so much, Curt. I appreciate it. Go be a father, and happy birthday to your daughter. 1 year closer to getting through arbitration for her. That's great.
That's right. She's 3 years old now, so she 3 years of service time. You know what that means?
Arbitration
We're taking
eligible.
Her to ARB. We're taking her to ARB.
Well, good luck.
We're not settling.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Curt. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Curt Hogg, the Journal Sentinel. Read his story. I had it right in front of me here as I'm getting ready for the show because I'm just trying to grab little tidbits about the profile of Caleb Durbin, and we know who Nestor Cortez is, but you want to just kind of update yourself with, okay, how old is he? Where is he in terms of team control? What's his timeline? What's his schedule? We know he's a starting pitcher. And I think last year, as Curt kind of said, and as I kind of said as well, last year showed us, you really can never have too many starting pitchers. They had a bunch of them last year. They had a bunch of them 2 years ago too. You can't really fault the Brewers the last two seasons for, well, maybe you can fault them for cheaping out, but you can't fault them for being lazy or or not doing enough. Like they've had a lot of arms. That was one of my things coming into last year when a lot of people, for some reason, were banging the Trevor Bauer drum. And it's like, well, they could use another arm. It's like, well, no, they couldn't use another. They have so many arms. Problem is, a ton of them got hurt, but they were still like, they still got by. So I think the last 2 years have shown us you can never have enough known commodities in that starting rotation. And if DL Hall hits, if Aaron Ashby can step into a starting role, like I think they would still love him too. If Mizorowski comes up and contribute, right? Like if all of these things happen, great. That's excellent. Then that means you have a great problem of we have a ton of pitchers. Where do we put them all? But if those things don't happen, last year Aaron Ashby just couldn't find it. He was still coming back from that injury, and DL Hall like tweaked his knee once, and it's like, all right, we'll see him in September. I guess he'll he's just not going to really pitch it all this year. All right. Obviously Wade Miley missed basically the whole season. Brandon Woodruff, we didn't expect him to come back, but he was on the shelf. So you just can never have too many arms. And I think the way that Curt worded it was the way that I would word it as well, is you feel a lot better about the rotation with Nestor Cortes there. I don't know where he's going to slot, and I don't know if he's going to be dominant. Like I don't know who that moves to the bullpen. I don't know, but you now have a known commodity. You might experience this, by the way. A good analogy or a good comparison for this might be Christmas shopping. Like I've been Christmas shopping over the last couple of weeks. And here and there, I've just been adding like, oh, you know what? I'm at this store. That's going to make a good gift. Like, I think that I'll gift that to this person. But anyway, like, I'll give you an example. We were at Mayfair Mall last weekend in Tosa, and we were tooling around. And I am not the shopper. Malls, I just don't need things from mall. I don't need things from stores, really. I don't need things. I don't buy things I need. I buy things that I want. Does that make sense? So we're tooling around the mall, and as we're heading back towards the entrance where we parked, I was like, oh, there's an Eddie Bauer, and they had a sale going on. Well, let's go in there. By the way, what an excellent store if you need like stocking stuffer type gifts. Like this isn't going to be the main thing, but what a great addition. What a great supplement. So we go into Eddie Bauer, and they had like 50% off this huge rack of gloves and mittens. Nice gloves and mittens. So I'm like, this is a nice pair of gloves. It's a nice pair of mittens. I have 2 siblings. What a great ad that will make. Now, I don't know, I don't know what role this set of gloves or this set of mittens is going to play in the gift overall, but I feel a lot better about having a selection of gifts for my brother and for my sister, knowing that that's the Nestor Cortes. Like, I don't know what the whole starting rotation is going to look like, but at least in early December, mid-December, I'm like, well, I feel better about this rotation now that Nestor Cortes is there. I feel better about giving gifts to my siblings or others that I've been just picking up things here and there and starting to collect it. And it's like, okay, this is starting to take shape. I feel the same way about a Nestor Cortes type addition. The Brewers acquiring him for Devin Williams earlier today. If you have thoughts on the Brewers, would love to take your calls. The Cubs also acquired Kyle Tucker today. Like there's been a lot going on in baseball, and it's actually happening when it's supposed to happen. How great is that? We don't have an army of Scott Boras players holding out until March for some unknown, annoying reason. Like we're actually getting a baseball offseason. This is great. So if you have thoughts on any of those moves, or if you want to get into the Packers, either way, when we come back, I'd love to take your calls. 608-321-1670. More of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show coming up in about 10, 12 minutes, about 20 minutes, actually. Normally, I'm used to being behind at this point in the show, but because Curt was able to join us at 4:15, right, I'm breaking like 10 minutes before I otherwise would be. So we got plenty of time, and we got room to breathe. This is like if you ever get up at 5:45 in the morning for whatever reason, and then around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, you're like, holy balls, I have so much day. What am I going to do with it all? We're so appreciative of Curt Hogg, by the way. If you don't follow him on Twitter, Curt Hogg, subscribe to his work at the Journal Sentinel. He's literally shopping with his daughter. It's his daughter's birthday. He probably already did a bunch of crap today that he wasn't expecting to do. He probably had plans with his daughter, and all of a sudden, oh, Devin Williams has been traded. I got to get on the horn and call this person, write a story. So please support Curt's work in any way that you can. He's always willing to come on, even when he's at the store with his daughter. I thought it was very cute, by the way, the fact that you could hear her every once in a while. Oh, the sound quality. I thought it was endearing. I appreciate Curt. Support his work, please. In about 20 minutes, I have an announcement. Another live show that we've added to the schedule up in the Chippewa Valley for our WAYY listeners, Sports Talk 105.1. So I'll share that with you right before 5 o'clock. But first to your phone calls as promised. You want to talk Brewers or Packers, whatever. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer.
Uncle Packer, happy Friday, my friend.
Yeah, fins up, man.
Fins.
I'm so happy. I was just, I tell you, I'm glad the Brewers made the decision for me, so I don't have to worry about the airbender coming in the ninth again, After September, that was so hard. I didn't know what to do with it. Now I don't have to worry.
That was one of my worst moments as a sports fan pulling for any of my teams. That loss was the biggest kick to the beanbags probably since 2014.
Yeah, that was tough. That kid from St. Louis, I loved him. I was like, the airbender. But just sometimes he'd turn right into the bartender and just serve you up a home run, and it's just not good. I'm glad he's gone, but I don't know who we're going to use now, but I got faith in the Brewers. They seem to be able to pull rabbits out of their hat.
Well, with the Brewers closers are like Packers quarterbacks. They don't have a problem ever finding the next one. Or this year, like when Jordan Love has missed time, Malik Willis has won all 3 games. People forget, Uncle Packer. Devin Williams missed the first half of the season last year. And between Pyamps and Uribe and McGill, they didn't really miss a beat at all.
I know. They was good. I wish they had put McGill in going back. I wish they'd have been McGill pitched the ninth of that last game. Hey, but I want to do a quick Packers thing,
Please. Yep.
I want a good, strong victory from start to finish in this game. Just like a decisive, powerful win. I mean, that's what I want. I'm not saying we're going to get it. They're a good team, and we just don't have very good luck up there. I mean, I got some nightmares from I lived through all those things. That playoff game was gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
It's when I realized I was too much of a fan when you get sick after a game,
The Fail Mary as well. Yep. No. I agree. The closer we get to this game, the more nervous I get, Uncle Packer. This Seahawks team is legit, and they're playing well. And I think they play with an attitude and a certain approach that, this is going to be a dogfight. And the Packers have been in a couple dogfights this year, and they've come out on the wrong side of it.
Right. And this is where we got to come out on the right side. If we're going to have that storybook season, it's got to be now. I think they got to come out, have a decisive win. I love Jair Alexander. I love his demeanor. I love his swagger, the way he talks, the things he does. But the greatest ability is availability, and he doesn't have that.
No.
And he needs to get that. We need him out there. I don't know the deal. How can you practice and not play? I hope he doesn't have Bakhtiari's knee. I'm just thinking that something's going on there, and I'm happy we're so healthy. I'm crossing my fingers, knocking on wood. That's a great thing. The Packers are very healthy right now.
Yeah.
And that's a strong time.
No, Jair's out, but everything else today was good news. Dobbs out of the protocol, Evan Williams out of the protocol. It sounds like Edgerrin Cooper's going to play. So overwhelmingly, big picture, the news is great. It's just this Jair thing. It's not like today, Uncle Packer, we all decided, this Jair fella, he doesn't play in a whole lot of games. We've known that. That's not new today. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Hey, are you going to, by the way, I'm going to be up in your neck of the woods doing a couple live shows. What are you doing the day after Christmas? Why don't you come out to Princeton Valley?
I would so be there. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. And then I'm going to Tampa Bay.
What are you doing in Washington, D.C.?
Just hanging out with the children.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing the children. I got a daughter in D.C., and I haven't had Christmas with her for a while. So I'm going to do that.
Oh.
And then a son in Tampa Bay. So I'm going to spend New Year's with him, and then I'm back up here to the cold, get ready to ice fish.
I was going to say, then you can really get serious about ice fishing. Okay, good. Well, I'm just glad you have a plan for the next couple weeks. Hey, appreciate it. Happy Friday. We'll talk soon, I'm sure, but have a good weekend, Uncle Packer.
All right, you too. Go Pack.
Go Pack. Take care. Fins up. I appreciate it. That's Mike up in Eau Claire. Uncle Packer. Man, that's quite the trip you got from D.C. down to Tampa, back up to, and then I'm coming back up, and we're hitting Lake Wissota. We're hitting it hard. Get the ice shanty out there. Yeah, here's the thing about the Packers injuries today. Overwhelmingly positive news that Dobbs is out of the protocol, Evan Williams is out of the protocol, and that Edgerrin Cooper is on track to play. That is outstanding. And the news of those players being healthy, to me at least, outweighs the news of Jair not being healthy. And like I said, Uncle Packer, it's not like all of the sudden today, Packers fans looked around and said, you know what? I'm worried about this Jair fella. I don't think he can stay healthy. Like, we've known for 3 straight years we've been talking about this. This is nothing new. This isn't anything new at all. So I'm actually more focused on Williams getting back and Dobbs getting back. Look, when Jair can play, he can play. But with players like him, who over the last 3 years played about 50% of the games, it's just like, all right, when we have him, great. But I can't sit here every week and be like, is he going to be back? We need him back. We got to get him back. No, actually, we need to figure out a way to play decent football and to be able to defend without him. Because that's the reality. The reality is you can't trust him to be out there. So we can't sit around and think, oh, God, I hope he plays. I hope he plays. Well, that would be a silly thing to hope for because he's far from Mr. Available. By the way, I went back and I pulled the audio from Matt LaFleur earlier this week when he was asked about Jair, who at this moment in time, when this question was asked and answered, he had been a full participant in practice for 2 straight days.
How'd Jair look?
He got through practice, and we'll see where he's at.
So I heard that as, yeah, 2 practices, you got through them, but Matt LaFleur at no point this week exuded confidence about Jair. And I wouldn't go so far as to say that he seemed frustrated. I mean, to be honest, he certainly didn't sound thrilled. This is the beginning of the presser today because the number one observation from Packers practice was Jair's not here. He's not out there. So veteran rest day, could it be a personal reason, or did he have an injury setback, right? So people are left to wonder. So we saw those tweets during practice from the Packers beat reporters. And then, right, we get the questions in the presser, and it was the first minute of the presser. This is the exchange between Matt LaFleur and a couple reporters getting to the bottom of the Jair thing.
A setback for Jair or today?
No.
Plan for him to not practice?
No.
Personal reason?
No.
Illness?
No.
Why wasn't he there?
Just based on what I saw over the last couple of days, didn't feel like he was ready to play.
So will he be out then this week?
Yeah.
Matt, what did you see that made you think that?
Well, there's certain requirements to get out there and go play, and like certain speeds and whatnot. And when you're not hitting them, it's you're not ready to play.
Anything disciplinary with this or
no?
That was that not such a weird start to a press conference? Like, why are we playing a yes or no guessing game? Just ask what's going on with Jair. He wasn't at practice. Was it a setback? Was it disciplinary? Was it a personal? Just ask him what happened. What is this? It's just a small thing. I'm not like fired up about it or anything, but just ask him, hey, where's Jair today? He didn't have a setback. He just wants to avoid another Chicago situation where he tries to go out there to go, and he can't. And I've been kind of talking about this the last few weeks. So Jair has an injured PCL, right? He missed 3 games between whenever and whenever. I can't remember when he got hurt and when he came back. But coming into that Chicago game, he had missed 3 games. And then after the game, Jair basically said, yep, I re-aggravated the same injury. I obviously didn't give it enough time off. So common sense would then say, okay, well, you had 3 weeks off the first time, and then you came back on a pitch count. That wasn't good enough. So I think, are left to assume, I don't think I'm drawing conclusion or jumping to conclusions here. I think this is drawing a fair conclusion. Needs more than 3 weeks. And I believe it's now been 3 weeks since the Bears game. Coming out of the Bears, it was the Dolphins and the Niners and the Lions. So this will be game number 4. So yeah, this makes sense. Like, yeah, a longer rest than the first time. This tracks. And even if Jair's able to come back, like, do we think he's getting all the way through that game? I'm not trying to put that on him. But I think that's why Matt LaFleur sounds so dejected, and you can see it on his face too. He's like, yeah, I mean, maybe he'll be able to be back. Maybe we'll see how he feels on Sunday. Like, we'll see, but I'm not going to hold my breath because we keep doing the same song and dance. You know what I mean? And this is nothing new. Like, this is the 3rd time I've said this now. It's not like Packers fans today were like, hold on, I'm starting to think this Jair guy is injury prone. Like, he's been injury prone for a long time. But I think the fact that he practiced 2 days, was off the injury report, full go, and then today was just absent and not able to go. It's like, oh, God. But overwhelmingly, I think, really, really positive injury situation today, because Dobbs, Williams, and Cooper all sound like they're on track to play, especially for Dobbs, who's in the concussion protocol. That's a long time to be in the protocol. That's scary. So I'm glad that he's coming out of it and that he's going to be okay. Let's take a 3-minute break. We'll come back. I have an announcement about another live show that we added to our schedule the week of Christmas. Little breaking news regarding Randy Moss as well. I'll pass that along. It's sad that actually a listener passed that along, and I think I should mention that. So we'll do that when we're coming up next. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills, and I hope you're just having an excellent Friday. Fins up. Appreciate you not missing a Friday show. Ellie French, Fox 11, going to join us to talk Packers in about a half hour. A little breaking news, which is sad, but it's nice to know what's going on. Randy Moss has announced that he has cancer of the bile duct. I'm no doctor. It's very serious. Hard to treat, hard to cure. Thoughts and prayers, if those are your thing, to Randy Moss. He said on Instagram, I am a cancer survivor. He had surgery. He's been in and out of the hospital for almost a week. Trying times for sure, but we made it through. Hopefully he's on the mend. Prayers for Randy Moss. You Could kind of tell by the way that ESPN handled it that it was pretty serious. It got pretty serious pretty quickly. It's not like, he announces he's going to take a leave of absence. It's just all of a sudden he was gone to deal with a health matter. And it's typically not how it goes unless the health matter is serious and comes up very quickly, which is obviously the situation for Randy Moss. So say a prayer for his family and him, obviously, and those around him. On a slightly lighter note, but still a not so light note, Thursday Night Football last night, I watched the whole game because I'm an idiot. Because when there's a Monday night game or a Thursday night game, I often watch because that's the thing. And I got to go on the air starting at 10 o'clock the next day with Bill. And I'm like, I got to be able to react when I come on the air at 10 and Bill's like, all right, what'd you think of last night or what's going on? Like, got to talk about it. Got to have something to say. Got to have a take. And it's a lot easier to have a take when I watched. You know what I mean? Instead of going back to, well, what did I miss? And the game sucked. But because it's the NFL and there's always good content, there's always a good story, Devondre Campbell leaves the game early. Did you hear some of these comments? Devondre Campbell refused to go back into the game. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about it. And it's not just that I want to go, wow, listen to Kyle Shanahan. There's a deeper point that I'm trying to make here, but this will set it up.
Is there a concern that he tore the Achilles again? Or
No. He he was unbelievable tonight. And I think we played. I think we took.
They're
him
talking
off.
about Drake
Not
Greenlaw
exactly
here.
sure, but I think we took him out the first two series to start the third quarter. I believe he went in 2 plays and just couldn't get it going again, and felt a little tightness and stuff. So we had to be safe with him.
What happened with Devondre Campbell? He didn't play, and he went into the locker room at some point.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So
during the game or before?
No, that was in the third quarter.
Has that ever happened to you where a player said they didn't want to play in a game?
No.
So
he got demoted for this game, right? He was not going to play.
No, he was gonna go in when Dre came out.
Will you release Devondre Campbell?
I don't. We'll figure out something, but I don't know that right now.
Did he give you any reason why you didn't want to play today?
No.
Campbell, to hear a player say, I don't want to play today, does that create dissension amongst the team, or did it not really affect anyone? No one really noticed?
People notice, but when someone says that you move on. You don't deal with that anymore.
With Devondre opting to not go into the game, what do you need to do to ensure that you don't lose the rest of the locker room?
I haven't lost anybody. That's somebody who doesn't want to play football. It's pretty simple. I think our team and myself, we know how we feel about that. So I don't think we need to talk about him anymore.
So side note, I think Shanahan handled that masterfully. Like, how do you ensure you're not going to lose the locker room? He's like, we haven't lost anybody. There's just one ass. I almost said a hole. I think I can say ass on the radio. The whole word, that's when you got to be a little careful. There's just one jerkbag who didn't want to play. If anything, the locker room's united as ever because we all hate that guy. That guy sucks. George Kittle last night after the game, he didn't know anything about this until someone told him after the game. Listen to just a little bit of this audio. This is wild.
I didn't really hear anything about it until I got in the locker room, so it's all brand new information to me.
Which
Look, if you're on the roster,
you're just telling me this for the first time.
Suit up, you're expected to play.
I didn't know that.
I think anyone in this building that got asked to go in, I would say 100% of everybody would die to get on that football field. And so people are going through random things off the field. I can't speak on that. Whatever, his decision was, it wasn't for this organization. It wasn't for this team. And no, that's on him. So, not very happy about it. I would have something to say. I wish I would have heard about it on the field, but I didn't. Now, is that the reason we lost? Absolutely not. But it's hard to win football games when someone doesn't want to play football, especially when you're suited up. It kind of puts you down, especially when you lose 2 linebackers and could address it.
They really needed him. That's
Does
the
that
other thing.
create dissension or disbelief or just disconnection on the sideline?
Not disbelief or disconnection like as a team. That is one person just decided not to, play for his teammates. And I don't think that doesn't make our offense look at each other like, wow, man, we're falling apart. It's more of we're like the defense, hey, we're falling apart. It's more of a one person making like Mooney said, a selfish decision. And I'm with Mooney on that. And I've never been around anybody that's ever done that. And I hope I'm never around anybody that does that again.
This is crazy, by the way. if you listen to a lot of sports radio, you probably hear a lot of clips from press conferences. We're always reacting to what these guys say. They always have each other's backs for the most part, 99% of the time. If a player's holding out for a contract, man, that guy's my brother. He's got to do what's best for him and his family. I get it. A guy misses a game for a reason. He's got stuff going on. Romeo Dobbs misses practice. He's going through some things. I got it. It was incredible to see how the entire locker room, all after the game, said, F that guy. I never want to play next to him again. I can't believe he did that. It disgusts me that he did that. That goes against everything that we stand for. They just lit him up. That doesn't happen. Like, you know that all of these guys don't like each other and that there are plays or mistakes made on the field or things done off the field that drive each other nuts. It's just like you at your place of work, right? You don't love every coworker unconditionally, and you don't everything that everybody does at work. You're not like, oh, I get that. No, we drive each other nuts. They lit him up. It's pretty entertaining to listen to and wild. You don't often hear things like that. Okay, an announcement. I said, and we can pick this up after the top of the hour, I said before 5 o'clock, I would let you know. So we're doing a Wisco Sports Show Home for the Holidays tour. I'm going to be home the whole week of Christmas, but I don't want to take every Monday, Thursday, Friday. I don't want to take all those days off. I don't want to take the 26th, 27th off. There'll be things to talk about. But I'll be up at my folks' place. They live up near Eau Claire. I'm like, well, what if we try to find some places to host us over the week and we can have Sports Talk 105 listeners come on out, have some beers, have a fish fry, do a live show. It'll be a blast. So at Thursday, or on Thursday, we've talked about this, we're going to be in Eau Claire. Friday, we're going to be in Menominee. We're going to be at Dean and Sue's out on 29. And if you lived in and around Menominee, you'll know Dean and Sue's. Huge place, lots of space. You got the volleyball courts in the summer. It's just a happening hub of a place. And I've seen live music there. They host events there. They're very supportive of like the booster club for the high school. I've attended events there for that. Like, they are just so important to the fabric of a town like Menominee, which is where I grew up. And it'd be an absolutely awesome place on Friday, the 27th. So 2 weeks from today, actually, 2 weeks from today, we will be at Dean and Sue's. The show will start at 4. We'll do a normal show. Maybe if you want to come on in lieu of callers, we'll have some live guests. I'll bring an extra microphone. We can do some fun things, live show things, have a fish fry. I'm definitely going to drink some wine and Googles, and we're going to have a great time. And it'll be a chance for listeners in Eau Claire to come out and be a part of something. And I keep saying this, but it's true. You know, we do broadcast events in Madison all the time. It's our flagship. WOZN is down here. Ebo's at the Red Zone for home games. And we're at Monk's on Thursday nights for Thorson and Heilprin, like lots of live broadcasts. In La Crosse, we're not there all the time, but we're there once or twice a year. We're there for Oktoberfest. I've obviously done a lot of events for WK2I over the years. Show's been on the air up and around Eau Claire, WAYY, for 4 years. We've never done any live broadcasts. So we're going to be Princeton Valley Golf Course on Thursday. So 2 weeks from yesterday from 4 to 6, which is conveniently, it's a perfect spot. It's the north side of Eau Claire. So you want to come down from Chippewa Falls. It's right in the middle of everything. That'll be perfect. That'll be Thursday. And there's a Facebook event already for that. So go find that if you haven't liked the show page, the Wisco Sports Show. And I believe Princeton Valley shared it. I also tagged Sports Talk 105.1, so it should be super easy to find. Go say that you're coming. Go say that you're interested. Let's drum up some attention, get some friends together, bring a group. It'll be a blast. And then likewise, if you're in and around Menominee, or maybe you're in Eau Claire, but you have plans on Thursday, the 26th, maybe you're doing family Christmas, or you're free on Friday, well, it's only a half hour. It's not far away. Definitely come on over to Menominee. And of course, if you live in and around Menominee, more convenient for you, come out to Dean and Sue's on, it's off 29. It's not directly off 29. It's on Midway, I think. But come on out. Should be plenty of space. Bring a group. We'll have a great time. We'll have some beers. We'll enjoy a fish fry. We'll talk Wisconsin sports. It'll be great. So I will post that Facebook event now, and go like that, share that as well, and pass it along and bring a group. It'll be a blast. We can talk more about this. But first, 2 minutes, we'll get an update from Zach Heilprin.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers will not have the services of cornerback Jair Alexander on Sunday in Seattle. He practiced the last 2 days on a full basis, but did not practice at all today as he tries to return from a knee injury. Coach Matt LaFleur explained why they decided to hold Alexander out once again.
Based on what I saw over the last couple of days, didn't feel like he's ready to play. There's certain requirements to get out there and go play, and like certain speeds and whatnot. And when you're not hitting them, it's, you're not ready to play. I just didn't want to have another situation like Chicago, quite frankly, where you're in there for a couple plays and it puts a bind on every other area.
Sunday going to be the fifth time in the last 6 games that Alexander has been inactive. There was good news on the injury front, though, as Romeo Dobbs and Evan Williams both out of the concussion protocol, expected to play on Sunday. Edrin Cooper also expected to return after missing the last month with an injury. Kick on Sundays at 7:20. Turning to the Badgers, it's a big weekend for them as they host a large number of transfer portal players. Includes at least one quarterback, Danny O'Neal from San Diego State. Badgers have seen 3 of their own quarterbacks enter the transfer portal.
Actor portrayal.
When I first looked into life insurance, I worried about the hassle. Then I found Better Life. Their simplified issue whole life coverage plans mean no medical exam. I found a plan that fit my budget, and now my final expenses are covered. Plus, I get Better Life member benefits at no extra cost. That's definitely better.
Better Life Insurance, where better means belonging. Call 888-488-4136. Insurance issued by Better Life Insurance Company. Terms and conditions apply. Member benefits are subject to change. Contact a licensed agent for details.
Well, Devin Williams is headed to the Yankees. Milwaukee made the trade of their closer official earlier this afternoon. The Brewers will get starter Nestor Cortez, prospect Caleb Durbin, and $4.5 million in cash back in the deal. Meanwhile, Bucks going to face the Hawks tomorrow in the semifinals of the NBA Cup out in Las Vegas. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
A setback for Jair today?
No.
Plan for him to not practice?
No.
Personal reason?
No.
Illness?
No.
Why wasn't he there?
Just based on what I saw over the last couple of days, didn't feel like he's ready to play.
So will he be out then this week?
Yeah. Well, there's certain requirements to get out there and go play, and like certain speeds and whatnot. And when you're not hitting them, it's you're not ready to play.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
So, Jair, just to recap everything that's happened today, and you heard in the update, Devin Williams has been dealt to the Yankees. And if that's the first you're hearing about it, sorry to just come out and say it. The Brewers' high-level, highly successful, highly productive, highly decorated closer of the last couple of years is now going to be donning the pinstripes, which I think would be kind of fun to watch. I'm glad he's going to the AL. Interesting to see what he looks like without a beard, though. That'll be kind of fun. So that was announced earlier today, I believe, in the 11 o'clock hour. That was hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show, right before we had Tyler Dunn on, who was tremendous. He's got a new story on about Sean Ryan. So if you missed that earlier today, hour number 2, the Bill Michaels Show podcast, you can rewind the stream, I guess, if you normally watch on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. So that went down earlier today. Brewers got Nestor Cortez in return and a Sal Frelick infield clone, Caleb Durbin, who's a pea shooter, 5'6", versatile, fast defender. What's new? Very Brewers. And then we got some Packers injury updates, and that's no surprise. It's Friday. Jair Alexander's not going to play, which isn't shocking. In fact, it might actually be more shocking if he starts playing in a lot of games. That's nothing new. But the rest of the injury report is actually pretty darn promising. Dobbs and Williams are out of the concussion protocol, which is excellent news. Because Williams has been out, it'll be 10 days by Sunday. That's not a given that you're in and out of protocol. Romeo Dobbs wasn't in and out of protocol in 10 days. So excellent news. They'll get their young safety back. Dobbs is well healthy again. That's great. Breathe a sigh of relief for him and his health too. And then Edrin Cooper is going to give it a go. He's expected to play, I believe was the verbiage from Matt LaFleur earlier today. It's going to be necessary. You need all the athletes you can, especially up the spine of that defense where they've been a little vulnerable, giving up passing over the middle and in the screen game as well. A fast flying around linebacker like Edrin Cooper is going to help with that too. The closer we get to the Seattle game, and maybe I'll take your temperature on this, 608-321-1670, call or text if you have anything to say about this. The closer we get to this game, I don't want to say the more worried I get, because worried isn't the right word. Put it this way. The closer we get to this game, the more impressed I will be if the Packers win. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where the Packers go on the road on Sunday Night Football in Seattle and win, and I don't come away from that game thinking, that's one of their best wins of the year. And I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I also think there's a chance that if the Packers go out there and win, we come away from this game thinking that is their best win of the year. Because what's the competition right now? Their best win of the season so far is probably the Cardinals. The Niners was pretty good, but it's difficult to take too much away from that game knowing that the Niners are banged up. If the Niners had Brock Purdy, if they just would have had their quarterback, but still no Trent Williams, still no Nick Bosa, maybe then I'd plant a little bit of a bigger flag on that game. And the Packers did their job in that game. Don't get me wrong. They were excellent, and they get credit for being excellent, even against a lesser opponent. But at home against a backup quarterback, okay, you get credit for beating up on that team. You get credit for winning that game. But it's hard for me to jump up and down saying, yes, that's the best win of your season, and I feel great about it. It's probably the Cardinals game. But it was how many weeks ago now? That feels like it was forever ago. I believe that was the second weekend of October because I was in Coon Valley that weekend. Oh, good times. I watched the first half of that game in downtown La Crosse before driving home. Oh, God, it's great. It's excellent. Outstanding. But that was forever ago. And it was against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in the rain. And I don't think Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are a team that I would bet on in the rain. In fact, I'm struggling to pick them to win in a dome right now in their own home building. Kyler Murray kind of pooped down his leg at US Bank against the Vikings and then let the Seahawks get him in his building at home. I understand Kyler Murray going up to Lumen Field or whatever. Like, I understand him losing in the elements at home, though. Man. So I'm not sure the Packers have a cut and dry best win of the season so far. And the closer we get to this game, the more I'm thinking, if the Packers go into Seattle on the road, primetime, and win this game that's won a couple games in a row now, or against a team that's won a couple games in a row now, I don't envision a scenario where the Packers win this game and we come out of it on Monday morning saying anything other than that's their best win of the year. Because if they win comfortably, that's a House of Horrors venue against a team that's won 4 in a row, that can run the ball, that has great weapons, a defensive mastermind as a head coach. Like, if they win confidently, outstanding. I'll be really impressed. And if they win in a knockdown, drag out, slugfest, okay, well, then they get credit for that too, for out executing an opponent that's at home and an opponent that's really good. So instead of saying the closer we get to this game, the more I worry, I'm going to word it the other way. I'm going to say the closer we get to this game, the more that this would be a really, really impressive win. Does that make sense? Now, maybe that also means I'm less confident about their ability to win, but I'll try to frame it positively as it's a Fins Up Friday. 608-321-1670. I'll take your thoughts on this. Wisco Sports Show. Hello, who's this?
Never miss a Friday show. How are we doing, Grant?
Thank you. I'm doing great, Vagabond John. How about yourself?
I am doing splendid. Agree with a lot of what you're saying about this Packer game. And I think we kind of talked about this earlier in the week, but yeah, what is their best win? I think this is it, right? Like, if they go in on Sunday Night Football, primetime game, both teams fairly healthy, this is it. This is the game that gives fans like me, I'll say, a lot more confidence going into the final stretch. Because I also think if they win this game, they've locked up the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
If they win this game, we are essentially talking about a playoff lock team. Because right now, if they lose this game, right, then if they only win one more game, right, and we're all looking at that same game, rivalry games and the other two, who knows what will happen there. Hopefully we can count on a win against the Bears in the last game, of the season. But we've been there before, and it was the Lions, and it didn't work out great, right? So we don't want it to come down to that last week. And, we're looking at that Saints game. So if you finish the season with 10 wins, right, worst case scenario at this point, in my opinion, you have a 20% chance to make the playoffs. That's kind of scary, right? So I do think this weekend, this Sunday night, it's a really big game. Because other than that, you're going to Minnesota, right? And then you have 2 games left that it should be easy on paper, but this is the NFL. And at this point in the season, with this roster and how much excitement we had going into the year, I do not want to be thinking about potential no playoffs in the last couple of weeks. So
no,
for that
and
reason,
So
I think all of those things, like, that's why this is a big weekend.
So locking down the playoffs, that's an important point. And I think a lot of Packers fans have treated that as a formality. And if they win this weekend, it is a formality, right? But if they don't win this weekend, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, Saints on Monday night, that's a game you should win, but it's the NFL, you never know. And then your final 2 games are divisional games, and one's at US Bank. And I still think they're, it would be pretty impossible for them to not make the playoffs, but it gets more interesting if they go out to Seattle and lose, and all of a sudden they go from 9-3 to 9-5, right? That's a drastic difference in the span of 2 games. And also, Vagabond John, to add to your point, this is the type of game that the Packers are going to have to win in the wild card round of the playoffs if they want to get back to Detroit and try to go on a run, right? Like you might have to go to Seattle, or you might have to go to Atlanta. So I think this is a little bit of a litmus test of, can you go into a road environment, a hostile environment against a playoff caliber team in a game, yes, that you're favored, don't get me wrong, but can you go into that spot and win? Because that's what they'll have to do in round 1 of the playoffs if this is ever going to get off the ground.
Yeah, and I think for those reasons, Packer fans, I think, are putting the playoffs as a little bit too much a formality, right? Because like I said, I'm giving them one more win. I'm not saying we're going to lose out, right? I'm not that low, right?
You really only think they're going to get one more win?
No, but I could see that happening, right? And we've gone through this with the Aaron Rodgers team, right? We got to the last game of the year. The Lions were depleted. They had nothing to play for.
So you're saying this Bears team... Okay, I get what you're saying. And this is a good spin. This is worth talking about. I think comparing this year's Bears team to the Lions in 2022, I mean, I guess if you really do some work on it, it can be done. But I think that's where you lose me in this.
Well, I think there's a lot of parallels because that Lions team wasn't ready yet, right? They weren't making the playoffs. They had nothing to play for except for being absolutely smacked by the Packers for an entire decade. It was a young team, Jamal Williams, vocal leader. It was a young team with a lot of young guys on it, and it was kind of their final, that in my opinion, that's the game that turned the corner, right? Then they went into the offseason with so much optimism. And I think if you're the Bears, as opposed to being just another game, right? If you're the Bears and you're the players in that organization, you're going to be playing a Bears team that is highly motivated to finally get over the hump with the Packers, with their young quarterback, with a lot of talent on that team, as opposed to, any other team in the NFL in that moment that might have a lot less to play for. If you put the Saints in that week, I'm a lot less worried. All I'm saying as a Packer fan, I do not want this to come down to the last 2 weeks. And I think this weekend, Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, I think this team has, just silenced the haters. And you have a chance to do it in Seattle this weekend. Get it done.
And would you agree, before I let you go, if they go into Seattle, no matter how it looks, if they win this game, is this their best win of the year?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think so too.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I think so too. Hey, have a good weekend, Vagabond John. Nice to chat.
You as well.
I like that. It's Vagabond John listening on WOZN in Madison. Okay, so I like the work that Vagabond John did. I like it. It's a creative look at how the stakes are a little higher on Sunday night than most people think. It's hard to win in the NFL, right? US Bank's a tough place to win. The Bears of this year and the Lions of 2022 connection loses me a little bit because that Lions team was very much on the up and up. They had their coach, they had their GM, they had all the pieces in place. It just needed to bake in the oven a little bit longer. This Bears team, to me, feels farther away now than it did at the beginning of the year, which is kind of insane considering how much we all liked their roster. And I still think their roster is solid. It's just, man, if it's the front office, if it's the coaching staff, and I defend coaches, you know me, I'm more likely than most to defend a coach on this or that, or to cut a coaching staff slack on something. I don't understand how the Bears feel farther away now than they did at the beginning of the year. Like, I'm seeing tweets from 670 The Score. It's like, if the Bears finish with a certain record, should Ryan Poles be fired? It's like, man, Ryan Poles felt like he might have had in-track or the inside track at executive of the year to start the season. So, look, the point of Vagabond John's point, and the point that I should be focusing on right now, is not, hey, sneaky Bears game in week 18. It's more of, the Packers have a little bit more to play for than most are saying. Now, I don't think they're playing for their playoff lives. I looked up the postseason probability, and you can use all sorts of databases. It goes from anywhere from like 96 to 99%. So it would be a historical collapse, and a historical collapse, I believe, is grammatic correct way to say that, which I don't like, but I guess I'll play by the rules. Like, it would be insane. I'm not worried about the playoffs, but I think a lot of Packers fans are like, all right, are they going to lose focus before the postseason? Like, do we want to show too much in Seattle? I think this is a huge game and would easily be their best win of the season. Could they get it? Even if they don't blow out Seattle, even if they win 19-16, I'll come away from this game thinking, yeah, that's the best win of the year. And I don't know that it's close. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Hal in Holcomb.
Hey, Hal, what's going on? Holcomb, like Lake Holcomb?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Highway 27.
I love it. Hell yeah. What's going on, Hal?
Well, I don't know. I'm frustrated by this Packers team because they're definitely talented, but I think, to be honest, the whole NFC North is being overvalued. Yes, of course, the Lions are good, but everybody in the NFC North is playing every team from the AFC South and every team from the NFC West.
Okay.
Both those divisions, I don't think it's particularly close, are the two worst in football. You look at the Packers; they've beaten up. They've won all 5 games against the AFC. The AFC teams. So the 4 AFC South. And the frigid Dolphins on Thanksgiving night, there was no chance they were going to win that game. They beat the Rams, who looks pretty good now, but back when the Rams were really beat up.
And same with the Niners. The Niners didn't even have their quarterback, right? So the timing, you're right. It's not just about who you play, it's when you play them. And I think the Packers have had some good fortune there.
So they haven't played any of these this is kind of the first game against one of the NFC teams where if you don't play well, you're going to lose. It's kind of like throw them into the bucket of Washington and Seattle and Tampa and Atlanta.
Sure.
I think they're just interested to see how they do. But last year, they had to win starting this time of the season all the way going forward, and they kind of found their groove. I just kind of find this team to be a little bit, I don't know exactly how I would say it, but they just seem they're playing with their food, but it's gonna catch them, and they're gonna go to Tampa Bay or Seattle the first round, and Mike Evans or DK Metcalf's going to eat them alive without the defensive backs and without being able to get the pass. I don't like the general trend of this team. What do you think?
Hal, it's great. That's a great call. Thank you for listening up in Holcomb. I appreciate that. I feel fine about the trend of the Packers. This isn't really a Packer concern for me. This is more of I'm paying respect to the Seahawks, right, and what they've been doing. I don't know that I'm concerned about the Packers. I think if you go back and you look at the Packers' schedule, who they've played, when they played them, Hal, I think you make excellent points. And you could probably say the same about some of the Lions wins, the Bears wins, or I don't know about the Bears, although the Bears did beat the Titans in week 1. And the Vikings wins as well. This division might be a little bit inflated because they beat the tar out of the AFC South. And the NFC West, I guess I don't know if I agree that it's the second worst division in football, but the Rams have had some bad weeks where they can be had. The Packers got them one of those weeks. The Niners as well. The Cardinals are such a weird team because I really like them, but also like, do I have to pick them to win games though? That's where they lose me a little bit. Like, love the roster. I like the quarterback and all the talent. It's like, well, can I trust them to win on Sundays? Probably not. So I don't know about the declaration that the NFC West is one of the worst divisions in football, but the overarching point, Hal, to your point, that maybe the NFC North, each of these teams has won an extra game or two above expectation because of their competition. It's more than fair. But I think you can say that about all the teams. So I think the Packers, this game is becoming increasingly important the more that we talk about it, because it would be their best win of the season. And again, as I told Vagabond John, this is the type of game they're going to have to win. They're going to have to go on the road and beat Atlanta or beat Tampa or beat Seattle or beat LA. So this game's a great measuring stick in that sense as well. If you're on hold, stay there. I promise I'll get to you in 3 minutes. We'll be right back. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Happy Friday. Fins up. Appreciate you never missing a Friday show. Ellie French, Fox 11, going to join us in about 10 minutes. She was on with us right after the Rams game. So it'll be nice to check in with her. Hey, in what ways have the team matured? In what ways has the team grown? What's changed? What have you seen in terms of adjustments or new voices emerging? Be kind of a nice check-in with her coming up in about 10 minutes. I'm going to get to your calls here in just a sec. So 608-321-1670, 2 or 3 open lines. Very easy night. Slow night on the phones tonight. So if you ever want to call, but you're like, God, I can't sit on hold. I can't deal with it. Right now is your time. And you get you in here before we get to Ellie. Also, go to the show Facebook page, the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills. We have 2 events. We're going to be broadcasting live at Princeton Valley in Eau Claire 2 weeks from last night, right at the clubhouse, somewhere around the bar. Can't wait to get with Zach and get that set up. And I'm hoping that we can just pack that place. So if you're coming, think of friends that you can bring. Let's make that just an absolute, I want to make it an absolute blast. So it's right off of 312-53, Business 53, I believe by the North Crossing. I've talked about this on the show before. Eau Claire geography loses me a little bit, but I'm 90% sure I have that nailed down. And it's not far from Chippewa Falls either. It's just on the north side, right below Halley. So come down. If you're a listener in Chippewa or Eau Claire, please bring people. Let's really fill it up because we don't have opportunities to do shows in and around Eau Claire a lot, despite having an affiliate, Sports Talk 105.1. And then the next day, December 27th, so 2 weeks from tonight, just confirmed it earlier today, we're going to be at Dean and Sue's in Menominee. So if you're a listener in and around Menominee, or maybe you're in Eau Claire and you're like, well, I got family Christmas on the 26th. Well, guess what? It's like a half hour. It's not far at all. It's just on the west side of Menominee on 29. And if you've been out there in the summer, you know they got the volleyball courts, and it's one of those places where it's you have a place like this in and around Eau Claire, Chippewa, or La Crosse, the place with the volleyball courts with the outside patio, and then on the inside they got the big room for events where they host things. It's just the place where everything happens, which is why it's such a perfect place to do a show. And I've done events there with the Menominee Booster Club where they welcome back athletes. They're just a place that supports local sports a ton. They have live music there all the time. So I'm sure if you live in and around the area, you've been there for one reason or another. That will be 2 weeks from tonight. So we'll do the show from the bars. I want to mix and mingle and talk with as many listeners as possible. It's going to be a blast. So please bring people. Let's come out and make it just an awesome time. All right. So both of those Facebook events are up on my page. Go say that you're interested. Go say that you're going, or share it, or get the word out there. All right. Back to your calls. I just had to do that. A little housekeeping. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Happy Fins Up Friday, Grant. Never miss a Friday show.
Big Ron, I was listening to the Wino and I Know earlier today, and I was thinking of you.
Oh, one of my favorite deep cuts, man.
So good. It's so good. It's one of the best.
Senorita,
and
won't you please come with me?
You turned me on to it, Big Ron. It was not a song it wasn't in my arsenal. I knew it, but you turned me on to that song.
He played that at the last show I ever went to right before he died, man.
What was the best song you ever saw him perform live? What song sticks with you because of a live performance? Sorry to put you on the spot. I didn't mean to do
probably,
that. Well,
well, a lot of his encores, like he has a good encores CD.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen him live so many times, over like 25 times. I'd say Southern Cross is one of my favorite live songs. And then some of the ballads, just like A Pirate Reaches 40 and
something like Nautical Wheelers, or something very, just him and an acoustic guitar. I had a friend who went to see him at Alpine Valley, and he came out in the rain at the end just with his acoustic guitar and played Migration. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool. I'm just an A1A fan.
Yeah.
By the way, that album turned 50 years old, I think, within the last couple of weeks. Let me look that up.
I remember you showed me that like private performance of him doing Nautical Wheelers. There's like a YouTube clip of that.
Yeah, in Key West,
there's
it's really
that guy
cool.
dancing.
That
Yeah,
place
Key
used to
West.
be
Totally
that
cool.
place used to be friggin' cool.
So Grant,
man.
I don't know if you're following this, but there's all these drones in New Jersey.
That's what people are talking about. Rogers was talking about that. What's going on there?
Like, I just drove home from work. I saw dozens of them. They're like 6 feet long.
What are they for?
Well, no, if you Google like just Jones New NJ, like all these news stories will come up, but nobody knows. Like the government's denying everything. Nobody knows anything about anything. There's just like dozens of drones everywhere.
Can you shoot them
And they're
down?
huge.
Will you face consequences if you shoot them down?
I don't know, but like New Jersey's much different from Wisconsin with gun ownership rates.
Sure.
Like not too many people own guns out here.
Well, that's why the mob was so effective back in the days of The Sopranos. That makes sense, actually.
Exactly, but it's spooky. I mean, it's creepy, man. I woke up in the middle of last night and I saw some out the window, and it's just creepy. Like,
Why?
I don't know what
I
to
mean,
expect.
no disrespect to the state where you live. Why are they so interested in New Jersey of all places? If I had a secret drone army and I was some foreign dignitary, I'd probably fly him somewhere else.
Yeah, I have no idea. You know, it's suburban New York City. I don't know. It's maybe they're over New York too, although they're mainly over Jersey.
Interesting.
But it's crazy. Yeah, you can definitely go down a rabbit hole, like Googling like all the different theories of like, if it's like some foreign adversary, but I don't know. I think it's just the U.S. government testing out some new technology or something.
Maybe that's why they're
But hey,
flying him in Jersey. That would actually
Yeah.
make sense. Is everyone's gonna be like, "What the hell?" and no one's probably gonna actually do anything about it. All right.
Yeah, that's why they're in New Jersey, because everyone's just like so busy out here that they don't. It's just whatever, some drones up in the air. Who cares?
All right.
Everyone's just
Well-
so self-absorbed out here.
Sorry, well, maybe a little bit. I forced you to talk about Buffett. We're talking drones. Did you have a sports thing you wanted to discuss today, Big Ron?
I think my pick of the week is to hit the over in the Packer game. It's a pretty reasonable number. It's 46.5. So you get a 27-20 game that goes over. I just don't trust the Packers defense, and I do trust the Packers offense. I trust Jordan Love. I think he's coming into his, form from the second half of last year, and, getting Dobbs back, I think will be nice. And I think, there's some pressure on LaFleur to get Reed some touches. And I think he'll just spread the ball around and we'll score a lot of points. And I do not trust our defense, especially with Alexander out.
Well,
so hammer the over.
Yeah, getting Cooper back will make a big difference. Big Ron, I just got to get to a guest, so I'm going to let you go. Have an excellent weekend. Listen to some Buffett, and good luck with the drones. Good luck with that. I like that over. I like that logic. We'll see if it plays out, because sometimes, teams go for it on fourth down, they get stuffed, or they miss field goals. Like sometimes offenses move the ball a lot, and it's a productive day, and it just doesn't result in scoring, which is why sports betting is difficult, of course. I think these two teams offensively are very similar. They got a lot of great weapons, but also a physical running back who can dish it out in the elements, out on the grass, right? So I'm interested to see how a mostly complete Packers defense, minus Jair, can handle an offense that's filled with weapons and handle a Seattle offensive line that's been pretty porous. They can be had. So is this pass rush going to show up? Is Kenny Clark going to be able to back up his performance, his breakout performance against Detroit? Right? Can Edgerrin Cooper in the secondary hold their own even without Jair? Because we kind of got to operate at this point. Like, how can you win a game without Jair? Because that's kind of how this works. So this would be a good litmus test. Basically, everybody healthy other than Jair. And Bullard, I guess. But Williams coming back makes a big help there, makes a big difference. Let's take a break. Ellie French, Fox 11, going to join us next to talk Packers.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
They play a great brand of football. They play winning football. They've been doing it throughout their entire franchise history, and especially since Matt's got there and doing his thing. So we got a lot of respect for them and how they play. They're a physical football team. They play really hard. They attack the football. They take care of it on offense. They do all the things necessary that you need to do to be a really good football team. And they do those things.
That's Mike McDonald. I think I played you that soundbite last night, just talking about the things that the Packers do well, the type of football they play. I actually think there are a lot of similarities. Like, both of these offenses have a quarterback that can sling it and make great plays, but also can make bad throws. They both have a physical running back that can succeed outside in the elements, but they also have, groups of wide receivers that could play inside a dome and succeed in a dome. And we've seen that with the Packers, and we saw that with the Seahawks down in Arizona last weekend. This is a really fun matchup. And I think the closer we get to it, the more I start to grasp, like, this is, I know the Packers are favored and we're used to this team winning, but this is not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. Joining us now from Fox 11, Ellie French is back. Ellie, what has it been? 2 months? We talked after the LA game, which was, I think, the second weekend of October. So it's been about 2 months. What's changed? What's changed on the Packers beat? What have you seen evolve and grow in this team since the last time we talked?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think I didn't realize it has been that long. You can just sense that shift in the fact that we're really getting down to business now. Coming out of their bye the second half of the season, things are really starting to become legit now, and you can sense that. You get that vibe from guys in the locker room. Like, they know there's only 4 games left in the regular season. They know where they're at with that playoff push. So you can tell that it's just kind of like, all right, it's business, and let's. You heard it all week long, the week by week approach. But yeah, I feel like that's legit. Like, they know where they are, obviously. Like, I think any player is aware of that. Even if they say oh, I'm not really sure. It's like, I think they're aware, but you can tell the mood is definitely shifted, but I think they're a confident group though.
I've certainly heard messaging from Tucker Kraft, in big moments throughout the season. Like, I remember, who did they beat? I don't think it was the Rams win. They had a win that maybe wasn't as fulfilling or as dominant as they wanted, somewhere around the Jacksonville, I think, stretch, or the Bears stretch. And Tucker Kraft, after a win, came out and said, we got to get on top of some of these things. We got to be held accountable. And I remember that. And I thought his messaging after the Lions game, his kind of state of the team after that close loss, has Tucker Kraft kind of grown as a leader this year? That's one guy I've noticed. Maybe talk about Tucker Kraft and some other players that you've noticed kind of step into that role this season.
Oh, for sure. It's kind of weird sometimes, when we go and talk to Tucker, I'm like, wait, I have to remind myself, you're not even fully done with your second year in this league, because he just does have such a maturity. And I think it's crazy. And now with Luke Musgrave coming back to practice, I always think to myself, whoa, if Musgrave didn't have that lacerated kidney, would we have ever even been talking about Tucker Kraft as much as we are now? So it's just crazy the way that things work out sometimes. Obviously, it is great having Luke back at practice, but yeah, just the way that it really opened up the door for Tucker to be the leader he is, both on the field and in the locker room. But no, I do appreciate with Tucker, he is very honest. I think he definitely celebrates the good moments, but also at the same time, he's very focused on there's things that we could have done better in these areas, and is really focused on those types of things. And I think he holds himself accountable too a lot, just little things where he's yeah, that was good, but here's where I feel like it could have been better type thing. So he is extremely mature, and he's a good just voice in that locker room. And again, I have to remind myself that he's not even fully 2 years in this league. So,
well, and along similar lines, Josh Jacobs, I've been impressed at his messaging and, his leadership. Leadership takes a lot of different forms, but he's been vocal, right? And I forget that he's only been there a year. And that was one of my questions coming into the season. It's okay, so you pay all this money to McKinney and to Jacobs, and I'd like those guys to be leaders, but it's sometimes hard to have the room and to be able to stand up and speak to guys when they've been there longer than you. So how have you seen those two guys maybe find their voice, even though they've been here just a couple of months, really, of football?
It's funny because when you go in the locker room each week, like, there's different guys that you're probably going to talk to every single week. And McKinney and Jacobs are definitely both those guys. However, it's been hard to track Josh in the locker room. And I think it's just because he has had such an incredible season that, like, obviously the networks want to go interview him. So you're always like, he's probably doing like a network interview right now or something like that. But when, they're in there, people want to talk to them, and they both are great. They're super well spoken. I think the vibe you get from both of them, and we asked him about it too, but especially you see it with Josh a lot too, because he is asked about it just because he is having such a good year, is they both just feel like, I think they feel like they're thriving here. Because they weren't in the best situations previously. Like, both the Giants and Raiders are not very good teams, and they're happy now because they're confident players and they know they're good players. And it's like, now they can be part of a good team. And so all that together, you just see that confidence in them. And they are so honest too about it. Like, again, we've asked Jacobs, I feel like Josh Jacobs every single week of like, are you so happy to be here? And he's just always like, yeah. And it's funny, like, every week we ask him too, like, how are you feeling? And he's like, I feel like the best I've ever felt in my life. Or like, minus, he says, like, my legs feel heavy, which is normal, but he's like, I feel great. And so you're just like, is there also something to be said about him just being so happy to be here too? And I think you get that from both of them. Like, they like the systems that they're in. They like that the team's doing well. They feel like they're part of something really special. So you see that when you talk to them.
It's nice when players make the right choice. It's nice when they get paid. Don't get me wrong. Like, Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney got top of the market deals. So we can gush about how well they wanted to play for Green Bay it's nice that they got their money and they've found a home where they like the football fit and they seemingly enjoy being in it. It helps to contend too, right? Coming from the Giants and the Raiders, you're playing meaningful football in Green Bay, which wouldn't have been the case for either guy had they stayed with the Giants or the Raiders. Ellie French is here from Fox 11. What has it been like covering Jordan and talking to him this year? Because I can't imagine he's had the smooth year that maybe he hoped coming off of that contract. He's had to kind of navigate his way in and out of 2 injuries. What has it been like talking to him on a semi-regular basis? Like, how has he navigated it all this year?
I think that he's done a really good job, and because he's another guy that's really honest too about just realizing, like, when he needed to do better, when he did have that stretch of struggle. And look, it was a rough first half of the season. I mean, he was dealing with a tough injury that, like, people thought he was maybe not even going to be the quarterback for the season because of how bad that injury looked. And so the fact that, like, it didn't end up being as bad as it was such a blessing for the Packers. But of course, it still was not a great injury. And so he definitely wasn't himself. And I think he tried not to use that as an excuse for sure, but you could tell, because now that he's back to being healthier, like, he's had 1 turnover in the last 4 games. And I just feel like he's making better decisions. And, some of these throws that he's making that are still really tough, like that amazing throw that he had to Christian in the Lions game, like, I don't think that would have been possible when he wasn't fully healthy. But you see it a lot. And I think you can just tell too, just from his confidence, like, it just seems better. The thing with Jordan that's so fascinating though as a quarterback is it's like, he's never too high and he's never too low. He's just so even keel. And, like, I know the Packers have had a lot of drops this season, and sometimes you see it on, quarterback's face, like the frustration, but he, like, never seems to get frustrated about that. Like, he wants his guys to know he's confident. But yeah, I just feel like he's such an even keel guy, and that's so difficult in a league where there's so much pressure, especially on him since he just got paid. But it's been great to see him just be better. And again, I think that just comes down to so much, like, he's finally fully healthy. And so it's just the perfect timing. And it was unfortunate it happened, his injury, but it's a good thing that it happened when it did. He could get past it, and now they can really make the playoff push.
Yeah, and he can practice every day too. I think that's something that probably was undercovered by people like me. I'm not saying by people like you, but when he can't practice every day at full tilt, it becomes hard to build those little connections, those little bits of chemistry needed to, complete a deep ball with Christian Watson or some type of back shoulder combination route with Wicks or Dobbs. So I think that's been an element too now that he's back and fully practicing on the regular. What has it been like? And I'll let you go, but covering the Packers this year, covering the Packers is always, I would imagine, at least in my lifetime, been like, this is a cool place to be. This is one of the centers of the football universe, but not just the Packers this year, the Vikings being as good as they are, the Lions being as good as they are. Like, the NFC North is kind of the center of the contender universe this year. Have you been able to to feel that when you've traveled to go to games? I know you haven't been to US Bank yet, but like, how has that been different this year than maybe previous years covering the team or covering teams, just in general?
Yeah, it is so crazy because it's like you look at other teams and everyone says this too. It's like, oh, the Packers could be leading another division right now because they're so good. And it's crazy thinking about that they're sitting at third place right in the division. Like, so it is exciting for sure. And I think it's good it's unfortunate because obviously then because the teams are so good, like getting swept by the Lions this year, like it's hard. But I think it's such an advantage too for them. And especially with this last game, playing them so close to the wire, like it's a pretty good measuring stick of kind of where they're at right now, especially with the playoffs getting so close. But yeah, I just feel like it's like iron sharpens iron because the rest of the NFC North is so good. It's like, it's good competition that they're facing. And it's not just like, okay, they're dominating their division because everyone else isn't very good. So it's helpful for sure. And all three teams should be making the playoffs, the Vikings, Lions, and the Packers. So again, I think it's just a benefit to them to be playing tough competition because who knows? And I think it's going to prepare them well, especially going into Seattle this weekend where they're facing another team that's leading their division right now is could make the playoffs and stuff. But I think it'll be interesting to see how they measure up against the team that's the top team in the NFC West right now, considering when you look at the rest of the NFC West, it's kind of like, all right, it's not like the strongest division anyways. So I think this weekend will be another good test. But yeah, it's interesting. I've only been, I did US Bank last year and then Ford Field last year. And the one stadium I didn't go to was Soldier Field. So I was like, oh, I'll go to the Bears game this year. And like, it's just, so it's hard to like feel the energy of the rest of the NFC North. Cause I'm like, oh, I only covered the Bears game. And like, that one came down to the wire and it was crazy. But then it was just kind of like the way that the rest of the season has unfolded for the Bears. It's just like, all right, it was just another season of how it's been, unfortunately, for Chicago fans.
Yeah,
so.
It's just we found another way, another fashion to lose to the Packers with another coach and another roster and another quarterback, right? Well, any final thoughts on the Seattle game before I let you go? I think this will be hands down their best win of the season if they can get it on Sunday night.
I think so. I mean, look, it's Sunday Night Football. I have never been to Seattle, so I'm super excited from that standpoint. But the stadium's really cool too. I think it's two really good teams, and I think again it'll be a good test for both of them, especially for the Packers, just to kind of see where they're at. But yeah, they can't. I don't think they're taking them lightly at all, and so it's going to be a big time game. And if they can get through another tough road test, I think it will say a lot and just put them in a really good spot as they continue to make that push to the postseason.
I think so. This is the kind of win they're going to have to get wild card weekend if the season continues to trend like this. So this will be a good test, and hopefully if they win, a confidence booster, right? Ellie, safe travels to Seattle. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it again.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it. Bye.
Ellie French, Fox 11. Support her work in any way that you can. Follow her. Watch the broadcast. Again, when we have people on, I always appreciate when you can support them and thank them for coming on the show any way that you can. Let's wrap up the Wisco Sports Show. We're going to take a 3-minute break, come back. Any final thoughts? I'm going to get to some texts as well as we wrap things up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Not only going out to Wisconsin and the great Midwest, we're going around the world tonight, Parrot Head.
Hey. Sponge cakes. For you, Big Ron. Good luck with the drones out there in New Jersey. Fins up. It's Friday. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Big thank you to Ellie French. Follow her on Twitter at Ellie French TV. Fox 11. Support her work in any way that you can. At the very least, follow her. Let's give her the Bills bump. I was thinking about this over the break. It's like, okay, so we got 7 more minutes left in the show. What have we not talked about yet, or what haven't we talked about enough? I wonder if Devin Williams hadn't been traded today and the Packers injury report was ho-hum, meaning half of the guys are going to play, half of the guys aren't. Maybe you get Evan Williams back, but Romeo Doubs is still out, and you get Edgerrin Cooper back, but Jair is still out. It's just 50-50. Okay, that's not really a lean. That's not really a trend, right? I can look at this injury report, and even though Jair isn't playing, I can say that's great. You're getting just about everybody back. That's excellent, right? So that's something that we've been discussing, and then we talked about the Seattle game. If the injury report was just kind of middle of the road and the Brewers hadn't traded away Devin Williams today, I think we probably would have spent a couple more minutes talking about Thursday Night Football. Now, the number one story to come out of Thursday Night Football was Devondre Campbell, right? Just quitting on his team and then his entire team basically taking him to the woodshed in the press conferences after the game. Okay, if that hadn't happened, what would we be talking about then? We're just going backwards, right? What have we not talked about for the sake of other things? I think Brock Purdy looking awful last night is pretty significant. And it got covered up a little bit, or it got diluted a little bit by the fact that Deebo Samuel kind of owned himself by tweeting throughout the week, like, I need the ball. No problems here. I need the ball. And then he got the ball and he dropped it. So people are laughing at Deebo. And then people are saying, what the heck, to Devondre Campbell. You know what? The Niners were home favorites last night, and I picked them. And maybe I wouldn't have on Bill's show if I'd have known that it was going to be raining. Maybe I just need to do my own research. I need to do better research. Maybe that's on me. But the Niners were at home in a game they had to have. And they only needed to score 13 points to win. And Brock Purdy couldn't get him there. And I know that Deebo Samuel dropped a ball that was probably a touchdown. Okay? But you needed to score. You needed to score 13 points. You didn't need to score 35. Like, the Packers needed to score 35 to win in Detroit. And because of that, we start to nitpick every little possession. Like, oh, well, if Christian Watson doesn't fumble, then the game goes differently. Yeah, okay, so Deebo Samuel dropped the ball on third down, but they also only needed to score 13 points. So I am less likely to hear excuses. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I have very distinct memories of being younger, being at home in the summer, and then mom was coming home from work, and we're like, oh, shoot. She left a list of things for us to do, and we didn't do any of them. How are we going to explain this away? And if I told my mom, it's like, well, things came up, which in hindsight is hilarious. What things came up? You're at home. I had this thing going on, I had that thing going on, a lot going on. So we didn't get to it all. Okay, it's fine. If you were just sitting around with your, thumb up your butt all day and you didn't do this, you didn't attend, you didn't take the garbage out, you didn't do all this, and you don't think of it as being a kid. Think of it, your wife left you a list of things to do and you didn't do it, and then the wife gets home. Why didn't you do these things? And you say, well, the neighbor came over and he needed help with the thing, and I had to go help. I was like, okay. So Deebo Samuel dropped a ball on third down. All right. What did the rest of the game look like? Was the rest of the game perfectly played by both teams? Absolutely not. The Niners had so many chances to win that game, and Brock Purdy couldn't get him there. And he actively hurt them from getting there. That interception down the right sideline, God. So luckily for Deebo Samuel and luckily for Brock Purdy, Devondre Campbell, who is as likable as, I don't know, Charles Manson sometimes. Like, that dude drove me nuts. He would play like dump, and then he'd take to Twitter and be like, if only you all knew what I was going through. He would tweet like he's in Marvin's room. Just drove me up a wall. Like, that's the guy who quit on the team. That's the story. The big story today, probably, if you cleared up some of the noise, is that Brock Purdy might not be it. And they have been budgeting and preparing, according to reports, to give him a lot of money. And I just wonder, the Niners have paid Ayuk, which they probably regret. They probably should have traded him in hindsight. They paid money to Trent Williams, but that was a one-year bump, unless I'm misremembering or I have it wrong. Like, they have a lot of money tied up in a lot of older players. Are they sure going $55 million deep into Brock Purdy? Like, is that really what they want to do? I don't know. It's a big storyline considering Kyle Shanahan is one of the better coaches in the NFL, more successful coaches. That organization has been to multiple Super Bowls. And to be fair to Shanahan and the Niners, if they had played anyone other than Patrick Mahomes, they might have won them both. They had a lead in both. So we can call the Niners all playoff chokers. Oh, they can't get it done in the big moment. Okay, but who does get it done in the big moment against the Chiefs? You say the Bengals, but that was kind of a one-off. So it's a huge story. And it was covered up by us today because there was big Brewers news, and it was covered up last night for many because Devondre Campbell did the most interesting thing of the entire game, which was walk out on his teammates, which caused them all to bury him in their pressers, which was pretty funny and pretty wild. You never really see players do that to their teammates, ever, if I'm being honest. All right. Over this weekend, I want you to do me a favor. Listeners up in Eau Claire on WAYY, I have 2 events posted. It's the Wisco Sports Show Home for the Holidays tour. 2 weeks from today, we will be at Dean and Sue's on the west side of Menominee. 2 weeks from last night, we will be live at Princeton Valley Golf Course. We'll be in the clubhouse. So if you're an Eau Claire listener or a Menominee listener, one of those shows should work. We'll also be live at Kai's Chevytown on Monday, the 23rd. So I'll be about. Come out and see a show. Go like and share the events on Facebook. Right. Have a great weekend.